LA sidewalks can be cramped, making it hard to socially distance, and many of our streets are nearly empty as people stay safer at home. Now there's a push to open some roads to pedestrians and close them to cars. CBS NLA's Leslie Marin spoke to a local rider about the project.
Joining me now is Curved LA reporter Elijah Chiland, who recently wrote about this issue. Thanks so much for joining us. First, how did this idea come about and where is it currently being pushed?
Sure. Yeah, this idea has been talked about on and off basically since the Safer at Home order started, with a lot of people who are transportation advocates, but there's a firm proposal now from the Delray Neighborhood Council to close some streets in that area on the west side of LA. And some other neighborhood councils are kind of looking to do the same thing right now. Mostly this would probably be residential streets where there's not a lot of traffic anyway, although they may also close parts of larger streets as well. Yeah, it's something that is now on the table. It's being discussed. The council member for that area, Mike Bonin, is on board with it, and he has asked the Department of Transportation to look into it and see how it would work.
Really interesting, because we've seen this already happen in other major cities where they have shut down the streets to cars and really just opened them up to pedestrians. So what would it take to make this happen here locally?
I think that what I've heard from the Transportation Department is that the things that they're looking into right now are basically like, how would this work? Like, how could we close the streets? What would it require in terms of enforcement? Could we just put up signs like they did in Oakland, or do we need to actually have like people enforcing? And then the other thing is, where would it go? And would you do it just in one neighborhood, or would you do it in multiple neighborhoods? And that's important because, of course, if you only do it in some places, it's possible that, people hear about it and then all of a sudden you have more people coming to walk in those neighborhoods, and it sort of defeats the purpose of making more room for social distancing.
Yeah, and that's the question I wanted to get to next. Is there a danger that this might encourage people to leave their homes, in turn defeating the point of social distancing? I believe some traffic experts have voiced their opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I think the Transportation Department is looking into and trying to figure out how to make that work. In Oakland, which has done street closures already, they decided to close off I think 74 miles of streets all at once, or at least all in close succession. So basically the idea there was like, if we do a lot, then it's less likely that people will be coming over to these streets from other neighborhoods to try to walk around. And the other thing I think that is a strategy is to do this more on residential streets and to pick streets where people are already having trouble social distancing. So maybe places where there's not a lot of parking and there's some smaller apartment buildings and things like that. So it's relatively dense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know I take walks down my neighborhood in Long Beach, and sometimes I have to run around someone just to keep that 6 feet distance from them. But do you think other cities will, here in LA at least, will adopt this if it does go through?
It remains to be seen. I haven't heard of a lot of proposals in other cities, but if Los Angeles does it, the city of Los Angeles, that is, other cities may decide that they want to try it out too. I mean, another question is like, what happens when the Safer at Home orders lift? Are we going to see, because right now this is possible because there's not a lot of people driving, but it becomes more complicated if the Safer at Home orders lift and all of a sudden everyone's out on the road driving again. But you never know. I mean, maybe people do want to stay in their neighborhoods more even after those orders lift.
It'll definitely be interesting to see. Thanks so much, Elijah, for joining us.